All right, guys, just want to welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today, I'll be doing a preview and prediction for a Week 10 contest between Kansas State and Texas Tech. Red Raiders 7-point favorites, 52.5 is the total. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox from Manhattan. Getting things started with the Texas Tech offense on that Wildcat defense. For Texas Tech, quarterback injuries have kind of, been a big part of this team. Kind of the biggest storyline, really, up until this point. Baron Morton is expected to start. He could have played last week, they said, but for precautionary reasons against a weaker opponent in Oklahoma State, there was no need to do that. Will Hammond got the start and ended up tearing his ACL, so a very capable backup quarterback is now not going to be available for the rest of the year. Mitch Griffiths is still on this roster. I think he's a respectable guy. At times played some good ball at Wake Forest. But for the meantime, Morton, he's going to be thrusted back into the lineup. This is a guy who puts up about 250 pass yards per game, 13 touchdowns and 3 picks. Back against Utah earlier on in the year in September. Didn't play the greatest of games before he ended up exiting with an injury. 2 of his interceptions came in that contest, but last year we seen this guy really dish out the football at a very high rate, and he can be a high-end producer as a veteran quarterback of a great receiving group led by Caleb Douglas, Coy Aiken alongside him. Those guys have very similar production, almost 1,000 yards combined between the two. Reggie Virgil leads the team with 5 touchdowns, and then Terrence Carter at tight end also has another 5 along with 297 yards. Very deep group here of weapons. John Carlos Miller is a capable tight end as well. More so a blocker, but he can catch a few balls per game. So I love the receiving group that Texas Tech has. Can really challenge anybody in the country. Kansas State, this is a team that's secondary. Has really faced some tough opponents, right? This is not something that's going to be new to them. The secondary has had to play the likes of like Baylor, TCU, even Kansas has an explosive pass game. And they handle those challenges well. They're able to do enough to beat TCU. They really shut down Kansas badly. Less than 50% comp rate, 137. They're able to snag a couple of picks. They got 8 on the year. I really feel like this team, since the bye week after a tough start to the year at 1-4, has really looked much different. This is a team that's now 3-1. The lone loss was on a field goal at the buzzer against Baylor, where they lost by a point. So this is a team that's definitely playing with a lot different juice, and I think that goes for all units, including this secondary. Zayshawn Rich, Donovan McIntosh, respectable corners, really good in their run defense, respectable guys in coverage. I think Rich, he's had a much worse season, though, than all the defensive backs when it comes to coverage. Q Moss, a very good player out of the slot. The top player in the secondary is probably going to be safety VJ Payne, although Gunnar Maldonado is also very good. Payne's the more consistent of the two. Good secondary here. Are they going to give up some yards? I think absolutely, but I think they can certainly make things tough, especially in short yardage. If you're trying to get the ball out quickly, they can fill those pass lanes and create some negative plays. So I think this is a good secondary overall. Texas Tech is still going to have their moments, of course. This year they've been playing with a lot of balance, 200 rushing yards per game. To see that from a Tech offense is very shocking, right? Because typically, they have had good rushing attacks when Taj Brooks was there for a couple of seasons, but not to the tune of 200 yards. Along with all this depth, Cameron Dickey, 678, 9 touchdowns, 215 pounds, showcases some nice speed. He's got a big, he had a nice touchdown earlier on the year, 69 yards against Houston, the receiving core as well. You look at his backup, Jacoby Williams, not 390 and 4 touchdowns, 185 pounds. He's a little bit better of a pass catcher, but nonetheless, these running backs have been able to showcase consistent playmaking on a weekly basis. Will Hammond, his legs were actually a big part of this offense. That was one of his strengths as well. So, in terms of that, if they want any quarterback run, it's likely not going to be there. The run game, though, has really struggled the last couple weeks, 109 yards against Arizona State. A very good run defense. I know they had a struggle some game against Utah, but that's an outlier compared to how the Sun Devils have played the last 2 years. And then against Oklahoma State, nothing, 40 attempts on 88 yards. So very interested to see if they can get back to running the football in this game against what is a respectable defense when it comes to their ability to stop teams in the trenches. And again, they didn't start the year great in that area, but since the bye week, they've been a lot better, holding teams to under 110 yards in each of the last 3 games. Those aren't the greatest of rushing attacks, of course, even though Baylor can hit you with some explosiveness, and Kansas can as well. This is a team that's a lot different than what you saw early on in September. The defensive front for Kansas State has some good players. Cody Stufflebean's really struggled. Chidozie Abizor also has not been great, but on the interior, Damian Alaio, Usa Simalo, these guys have been really good. Travis Bates has been a respectable edge. So they got some players. Toby Osunanimi, very good player for them. In the middle, though, I think the linebackers are by far the toughest group to contain. Austin Romaine, Desmond Purnell, these guys are phenomenal, especially when it comes to defending the run. Respectable guys in coverage. They're going to draw matchups on these running backs often. So it's going to be on them, really on their shoulders to make those plays when it counts. They really struggled when it comes to tackling, though. Combined 27 missed tackles between the two, so that's been an issue for them. But these guys are the best playmakers for this team. The Texas Tech offensive line I'm a fan of. I think consistency is also a bit odd when it comes to them, but overall they're having a great year. Will Jados at left guard really isn't. And then at right guard, Davian Carter, on the other hand, has been elite. At center, Sheridan Wilson's a phenomenal pass blocker. Right tackle, Jacob Ponton, having a good year. Then left tackle, Harold Sampson, I think, is also having a pretty stout season. But they need to get back to dominating in the trenches when it comes to running the football. That's going to be a big matchup for them this weekend. Looking at the defensive side of the ball for Texas Tech on the KSU offense, again, getting a week to kind of settle down and get things right for this offense that just did not look great to start the season. It's paid big dividends. Yeah, Avery Johnson's showing much more efficiency. He's been much better when it comes to protecting the football as well and finding big plays in the pass game. 1,800 yards on the year through the air, 15 touchdowns, only 2 picks. Has not been as great as a runner, 255 yards and 8 touchdowns, but he's been really good in short yardage and near the goal line. He had 2 touchdowns against Kansas, for example. So Avery Johnson is a guy that I think is continuously that is progressing his game. And you're also seeing these receivers really step up. Jace Brown, he was never an issue, but getting some help around him. Jerron Tibbs has been great this year, 403 yards and 3 scores. Garrett Oakley at tight end, love what he can do. He's also got 4 touchdowns. I think Jerron Bradley, this is a guy who's a capable performer. His production this year, it's not been great. After, the first 3 games was pretty good. He had a touchdown against TCU, but this is a guy that can make plays downfield as a physical pass catcher, 6'5", 223. So I want to see Bradley starting to get back into the thick of things as he returns to full strength. The run game overall for Kansas State, it's not been good really all year. Joe Jackson's had to take over in the backfield, and he's been all right. 212 pounds. He's more of a power back, and he was expected to be utilized in those power formations and short yardage, and that's not what it's really called for this year. He's had to be the starting running back, had 110 yards against TCU, had 20 carries for about 69 against Kansas. So, his efficiency's not been really there. The loss of Dylan Edwards, and it appears he's probably not going to play in this game either. He's just been beat up the entire year. He was a full go against UCF and had a great game. But just since then, that's really it. And it's unfortunate because they really need his explosiveness in this run game. That's a guy that's a phenomenal athlete, probably the best player on this offense overall. And his absence has been looming large for this team, and you're going to continue to see that here against the nation's top run defense. It's not going to be an easy day at all. Texas Tech, they went to the portal big time, and they added some legitimate beef. They can win a national championship with this defensive line. I'm confident in saying that. That's how good they really are. David Bailey, Romello Height, 2 of the top edge rushers in the country. A.J. Holmes, Lee Hunter, Jaden Cofield, and then Skylar Gill Howard. They're that deep on the interior. Marion Banks is a veteran as well, plays a little bit. They are absurd on this side of the ball when it comes to what they have in the trenches. And then alongside that, you had these 2 returning linebackers in Jacob Rodriguez and Ben Roberts. Rodriguez is playing out of his mind. This is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate in the entire country. 72 tackles. He's got 2 interceptions, 7.5 tackles for loss, 5 forced fumbles. He is just ridiculous. One of the best run defenders in the entire country. And then Roberts alongside him has to play a bit of a back seat, but he's also really stout in that regard. I just love this defense and what they're able to accomplish, which, this was a strugglesome area for Tech last year. They were towards the bottom of FBS in numerous categories, and they're showcasing what you can do in the portal when you go and get some big-time names. And that's what they're doing. I think for Texas Tech, when they lost to Kansas State, a game I figured they would slip up in. The Sun Devils looking for a bounce back after they lost to the Utes. Sam Levitt made a lot of big plays of his legs, was able to convert some tough 3rd and 4th down situations. Airing it out to Jordan Tyson really helped, of course. And that's how they were able to really win that game. They went 9 for 21. That is Arizona State on 3rd down. So they were put in that situation a lot, and they were able to convert a fair amount of those. But that's what they faced, right? So Avery Johnson, he's going to have to do that. Make plays with his legs, find his explosive receivers downfield. For Tech to allow that 2 games in a row, or really 2 out of the last 3 games, allow that same exact scenario seems unlikely. I think these corners have played well this year. Dante Balfour and Amir Boyd sharing that number 2 spot, while Bryce Pollock remains the cornerback 1 for this team. At safety, Breeden Jordan has stepped into the starting lineup this year and been great. Cole Wisniewski, the transfer, has been a phenomenal run defender. And then in the slot, you have another player in John Curry who played on this team last year, and he's also been very stout. So, this has been a very easy year for the secondary, of course, because you have so much pass rush up front, so disruptive. David Bailey with those 10.5 sacks really helps, of course, and so that's why the secondary's not been in too many vulnerable situations. That's going to be probably the case here in this one. I think it's a respectable O-line for Kansas State. They're having a pretty good year. When I say respectable, I mean in terms of talent. Um, and they're really overachieving, I'd say. Jonathan Story at left tackle has been very good. Right tackle, Andrew Langang, a veteran's having a pretty solid season. I think the interior is very weak, though. Sam Hecht at center is a baller, but the other guys around him, I think, are definitely going to struggle when it comes to trying to generate anything on the ground, and then interior pass rush might also be something they struggle to conquer as well. So for Kansas State, that's going to be the key to success. Johnson just showcasing his playmaking as a dual threat athlete, and you're hoping off schedule playmaking is going to be something that's in your favor in this game. But that pass protection has been strong in conference play for Kansas State, so maybe they can turn in a good effort here, even though it's going to be hard. I think final analysis and the prediction for Kansas State, again, this is a team that's being overlooked. I felt that way last week. They were 2.5-point underdogs against Kansas. I picked them to win that game. Didn't think they'd win it in the fashion they did. 42-17. They blew them out. Looked good on defense, special teams, offense, the whole three levels they were great in. Texas Tech now coming on the road. Can be slippery. I think that they have a defense, though, that travels, and I think that this offense is going to get back on track from Morton back at the helm. And I think they're ultimately just going to be able to create enough negative plays against Kansas State to win it. I'm going to take over 52.5. That was the best bet. Will Kansas State really score 26 points? I'm really not sure, but I think, again, this is an offense and really a defense for the Wildcats that's playing at a different level since that bye week. The last couple of games now just flying under the radar. I think they'll be able to do enough here to hang around and cover that 7.5 point line. So I think for Tech, this is definitely a trap game on the road because Kansas State was one of the favorites in the conference coming into the year. And I think you're starting to see that team kind of mold into shape a little bit more. So I don't think there's a 7-point gap here in this one, but Tech, they have so much athletic ability. When it comes to their defense, they have so much playmaking on offense that they can blow out anybody. But I'm going to keep this score close. Texas Tech getting the job done in Manhattan. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.